What's a story from your family history that feels straight out of a movie? In my family, there's one story that has been told so many times it almost feels like a myth, but the thing is, it really happened. And every time someone new hears it, they sit there wide-eyed shaking their head and eventually say the same thing. That sounds like something straight out of a movie. It's the story of my grandfather in the early 1970s, when he accidentally crossed paths with bank robbers and carried the weight of that night for the rest of his life. Back then, he was just a 22-year-old mechanic in a sleepy little town. Picture it, a main street with 2 diners, a hardware store, and a single stoplight that blinked yellow after 10 p.m. He lived a modest life, grease under his fingernails, overalls that never seemed fully clean, and a reputation for being the guy who could fix anything with an engine. One late evening, as he was closing up the garage, a truck came barreling in, not just limping, barreling. It was a beat-up green Ford, sputtering and choking like it was seconds away from dying. Out jumped 3 men, all wearing hoodies despite the warm night air. They weren't from town, that much was obvious. Rough, wiry, jittery. They spoke fast, almost tripping over each other's words as they begged him to take a look. Cash up front, no paperwork, no names. Now, my grandfather wasn't naive, but he was practical. Money was money, and he wasn't about to turn it down. He popped the hood and got to work. The engine had overheated and the radiator was leaking. Simple enough for someone like him. But here's where things got strange. While leaning into the cab to grab a tool, he noticed duffel bags stacked behind the seats. One wasn't zipped all the way, and inside he saw stacks of bills, not a few 20s. Thick bricks of cash, bundled with rubber bands. His brain barely had time to register what he was seeing when a distant police siren wailed in the night. The reaction from the men was instant and terrifying. They stiffened, cursed under their breath, and one of them barked, "Hurry the up, man!" The air shifted. My grandfather suddenly realized he wasn't just fixing a truck. He was standing in the middle of something much bigger. He slammed the hood down, declared it good enough, and stepped back. The men peeled out of the garage in a spray of gravel, the stench of burned rubber lingering long after the headlights disappeared. Moments later, the red and blue glow of police cruisers lit up the road. They screeched into the lot, officers jumping out, guns drawn. One of them stormed up to my grandfather, demanding, "You seen 3 guys in a green Ford carrying bags?" This was the crossroads moment. He could tell them the truth, that yes, they'd been here. Yes, their truck had been overheating. Yes, there was a mountain of cash in the cab. But then what? If word got back to those men that he'd snitched, he knew in his gut they'd come back for him. So he lied, smoothly, calmly. He shrugged and said, "Yeah, some guys stopped by. Truck overheated. I patched it up quick. Didn't notice much else." The officers grilled him for 15 minutes. Where did they go? How long were they here? Did he hear them say anything? Did he see anything unusual? My grandfather kept his answers vague, never giving enough detail to contradict himself, never sounding nervous. Eventually, the cops sped off, sirens fading into the night. My grandfather was left standing alone in his dimly lit garage, heart pounding in his chest, hands trembling from adrenaline. For weeks after, he barely slept. Every time he heard tires crunching on gravel outside his house, he thought it was them, coming back to silence him. He double-locked the doors. He carried a wrench around the shop like it was a weapon. But the men never returned. In fact, no one in town ever saw them again. Here's the kicker. Years later, when my dad was old enough, my grandfather told him the full truth. He admitted that he hadn't walked away from that night empty-handed. Somewhere in the chaos, one bill had slipped loose from a duffel bag and landed half under the seat. He picked it up without thinking. Maybe fear, maybe instinct. It was a $100 bill, a fortune for him at the time, but he never spent it. Instead, he folded it carefully and kept it in his wallet for decades. Every time I looked at it, he told my dad, I remembered how close I came to getting pulled into something I didn't want to be part of. That bill became almost like a family relic. When my grandfather passed away, my dad framed it in a shadow box. It hangs on his wall to this day, a crisp green reminder of the night our family brushed against crime and walked away untouched. Whenever someone new visits the house and notices the framed $100, they always ask the same question. Why frame a random bill? And then we tell the story. We tell them about the small town mechanic, the bank robbers who crashed into his life, the cops who almost caught him in a lie, and the single piece of evidence he carried as a reminder. Every person who hears it reacts the same way. They lean back, shake their head slowly, and say, that doesn't sound real. That sounds like something out of a movie. But for us, it's just family history.